I think it's putting it mild to say that an opinion piece written by Tourism Minister Lindiwe Sisulu has split opinion. That's putting it really mild. It's now emerged, though, that her article may have been plagiarized. That's the follow-up article. Sisulu criticized the judiciary and the Constitution, among others, really, including her own comrades in Parliament and in political leadership. Many have condemned her comments, including the acting Chief Justice Raymond Zondo. But despite all the controversy, Sisulu is sticking to her guns. Let's explore this further now with political analyst Professor Sipho Seepe. And I think, Prof, as a starting point and for transparency, it's not a secret that you once worked for the minister as an advisor all those years ago. So with that background in mind, and I'm hoping that you'll be able to share, including insights, how we should understand. In fact, I think let's start there. How should we understand what Minister Lindiwe Sisulu, the NEC member of the ANC, was trying to achieve here, and whether it has achieved what she wanted? If it's one, to trigger a debate on the country's socio-economic situation, unemployment, poverty and inequality that continues to plague us, or if it was two, to launch her political campaign for the ANC presidency. Either way, how should we understand what has happened here? Has she achieved her goal?
Well, the first thing that we must understand is that democracy is an experiment. And we've been on this experiment, and within that experiment, there were certain expectations. And one of those was said to redress the injustice of the past. So from time to time, we have to reflect on whether our experiment is working. And Minister Sisulu's approach on this was quite clear. And as she did indicate that in a byline, she said she wrote as a member of the ANC and also as a chair of the social transformation of the ANC, which is really to say, which requires that the ANC should reflect on that historic mandate it got in 1994, which is really to deal with the sins of the past and those conditions that our people find themselves in. And so she was very clear in what capacity she was speaking. But even if she was speaking as a minister, I also don't see a problem with that. And the point that the Raymond Zondo was also raising is, let's not even focus on the messenger. Let's deal with the message. Are we making progress in terms of what we expected would be the post-1994 or post-apartheid dispensation? And the answer is no. So what people have actually done, they've actually spent more time dealing with the messenger than the message. So if the minister wanted to have the nation talking about this democratic experiment, she has actually achieved the goal. You need to understand that we just had the General 8 statement of the ANC, which is going to guide a discussion around the state of the nation. The fact that we are talking about what the minister wrote and not what was said by the ANC in its January 8 statement suggests that she has actually got the country talking. So this is the real state of the nation, to say how far have we gone in terms of the promises that we made in 1994.
Respectfully, Professor Seepe, I don't agree with you that we are talking about the substance of the underlying issues that she wanted us to talk about. We are now, instead of talking about using policies, using the Constitution, which is transformative in nature, to change the situation of poverty, unemployment and inequality, we are in a situation where we are talking about a minister who swore and raised her hand and said she would uphold, defend and respect the Constitution, who has turned around and blamed all our misfortunes on that very same Constitution, and at the same time has launched an unprecedented attack on the judiciary. I suspect you're going to have to... I'm happy for us to talk about the issues, the underlying issues she wanted us to talk about. But I'm saying to you respectfully, I don't agree that she achieved that. We are now talking about her attacking the Constitution and the judiciary.
No. I think this is where people misunderstand the very same Constitution that she's talking about. The Constitution first anticipated that from time to time it will be reviewed. That's why we have constitutional amendment. Secondly, the Constitution also gives us the right to speak and to express our opinion, even those opinions that we may find not palatable. So there's nothing unconstitutional in what she has actually done, even to question. This is what is called self-critical. So we can differ on that, but I'm saying the position that she has taken in speaking out is a position that has allowed us to talk about these underlying issues. And also the Constitution is on her side. What has been questioned is whether she has used the proper process and channels that are available to deal with that issue. And that is, for me, a secondary issue to the biggest challenge that we face, that our people remain mired in conditions of poverty. And sooner or later, this will be unsustainable. That is what we should be talking about. But to say that her action was unconstitutional, despite the fact that she had sworn to uphold and respect that Constitution, does not mean that the Constitution itself cannot be subject to critique. But I'm also saying the Constitution expects without
yes.
a critique of the Constitution.
Okay, I've got you now. I lost you there for a moment, but we heard much of what you were saying. Again, Prof. Seepe, let me come back to you and say that it's not about the platform that she used, because constitutionally, there's nothing wrong with a minister writing an opinion piece, raising debate about the state that we are in as a nation, the state of the nation. In fact, I think, if anything, that's encouraged our leaders to do that, to engage South Africans. I suggest to you that I cannot agree with the proposition that says there's nothing wrong with a member of the executive launching an unprecedented, well, let me not use unprecedented because it has happened before, a scurrilous attack on the judiciary, calling members of the bench house Negroes. I think that in doing that, again, I'll come back to it, she detracted from what she wanted us to be talking about. Because otherwise, you and I would have spent the last few minutes talking about me arguing that the Constitution is transformative and has actually served to hold government to account in as far as socio-economic rights are concerned, the courts forcing government to deliver on those. But we are not. We are here still, you and I, talking about the fact that a member of the executive, who is also a member of the legislature, cannot launch a scurrilous attack on the branch of government, an independent branch of government that depends on public confidence being invested in it, and she goes and undermines it in this way.
Yeah, I think we can at least agree on the fact that the manner in which she has done it was not the way to do it. But the issue that she was raising around that issue is also who are the interpreters and how is the law interpreted. But the notion of suggesting that the judges are house niggers, I think we can agree on that. But having said that, we must then go back because the reality that we should be dealing with what affects the majority of our people as opposed to becoming obsessed with it.
Before you move on and make that point again, and if we agree on that calling the interpreters of the Constitution house Negroes, if we agree the way that you have just said in the last minute or so, surely we should agree that her behavior deserves censure, at least that part of it. It does deserve censure. We can continue the conversation. I'm happy for us to continue the conversation, and many of us are, but we cannot leave this unchecked.
Well, I think there is what you call protocol, and I think what the Chief Justice suggested was that this matter needs to be looked at. And what would be important is whether from the President's side, this is a breach of that protocol, and this is an unwarranted attack, and also that whether in speaking as a minister, and also factoring what the Gwede Mantashe says, that in terms of his reading as a chairperson of the ANC, he doesn't see this as having brought the ANC into disrepute. So you have a position of the ANC, and I think even in that space, the ANC might actually be divided. So it will really be up to the President to make sense of what the Chief Justice has said, and also the many other responses. But what we should not be, in doing so, we should not shy away from the critical issues that are raised, because sometimes we become so obsessed with the messenger as a way of diverting attention from the critical issues that were in the article.
There you and I are again in agreement. The issue of unemployment, poverty being perpetuated and perpetuating even in the context of this transformative constitution, but not blaming, on my part at least, not blaming it on the constitution, saying that there are failures of policy and policy implementation. Prof. Seepe, thank you for your time, and I appreciate your insights and you sharing your views with me here on eNCA.